We know you just got off the stage at that Democratic primary debate, and we did play in the in the opening of this hour, a question that you received during that debate. And I'm going to paraphrase it again. It said, how can voters trust that you'll be able to work with the federal government and not interfere with law enforcement? And I was struck by the framing of that question. Can you just set the stage for us? What transpired Friday afternoon outside of that detention facility?
Well, you know, they're always trying to catch me. But at the end of the day, we did not interfere with any federal processes at all. I did not trespass. When the Homeland Security investigator, the special agent in charge, by the way, who was the one that approached me, asked me to leave the property. In the end, we left the property. They came outside of the property and arrested me on the street on the city side. That's just a fact of the matter. We didn't bust our way in. We didn't push our way in. None of that actually happened at all. I went there for a press conference that the congressional delegation was having that turned into a melee because they created that. They escalated that situation. ICE agents were there the entire time for over an hour and a half, and nothing happened. Nobody asked us anything. Nobody said anything to me. It was only when the special agent in charge came and got a phone call, obviously, from the higher-ups to target me, and they targeted me, and I was the only one arrested there, and nobody else was arrested or even put in cuffs, for that matter.
Mayor, you have indicated you will appear in court later this week on Thursday, and we'll have the chance to sort of address that in that setting. You just alluded, and I would agree with the idea that a lot of this is sort of political showboating and performative example making of you in this moment, because as the facts sort of played out and were recorded on various cameras, you were outside of the facility, right? You weren't actually on federal property at the time. When you were asked to leave, you left. There was no arrest at that point. So the reality of it is you're now in a situation that is largely for political theater and drama. Yes, you will have to go through that legal process. How do you see this playing out based on the question that Simone raised at the very beginning to you from someone during the debate? How do you think New Jerseyans are looking at this episode and viewing your leadership at this moment?
Well, I think most of the folks are very excited about it. We had hundreds of people down there at the facility where they held me, trying to get me out of there. They're people who have been to the Delaney Hall site over and over again since that happened. We're getting a lot of support in the community, on the street. People want something to happen. Obviously, there are a few people in the state who are afraid of confrontation, who want to be in the middle, who want to be moderate. And this is not the time for moderation. This is a time for creativity, for boldness, for action now, more than ever. And I think the majority of the folks, particularly people who want to push back against what's happening nationally, they appreciate what's going on here and that we're not acquiescing to these folks. And by the way, that property is not federal property. It's not owned by the federal government. It is a private facility owned by GEO. So I was not federal trespassing because the federal government doesn't own the property. They don't have one employee in that property at all whatsoever.
Let's talk a little bit about that facility, because while attention has shifted to you and members of the congressional delegation, the point of going was to make sure that the attention was actually on the folks inside that facility. The members of Congress went there in their oversight capacity with a number of questions. What questions do you have about the inner workings of that detention facility?
Well, we're in a contention with GEO Group, close to 20 years. We're saying they have to update it based on municipal zoning laws, that it must be updated. They have to have the proper inspections. We need to check how many people are in there, how many beds they have, all of the egresses, the elevator, the sprinkler system, like we do any other building. They're arguing that they don't have to do these specific things. And it's okay. They have a right to say that. But that is settled by courts, right? It's not settled by Alina Habba. It's not settled by the President of the United States. It's not settled by these institutions. It's settled by the court and a judge. And that's what we were doing. And they began putting people in the building before it was even settled.
You're running for for governor of New Jersey. We have seen governors in blue states will be one of the strongest lines of defense against this administration. If you were to win, can you give me just one very specific example of where you see an opportunity for a governor of a blue state, for the governor of New Jersey, to stand up to this administration?
Well, I think ultimately we have to stop doing one-offs, and we need to be working together. Pritzker, with Newsom, with Wes Moore, the governor of Maine. We need to form a progressive caucus and use our resources to collectively file suit and collectively share resources with one another when we're under attack by this administration. We can't do it alone. We have to do it together. And that's what I would be organizing around.
Mayor Baraka, there are lots have been written since Friday in the papers nationally and locally, and said amongst the strategist channels, if you will, about the fact that Republicans would like to boost you in the Democratic primary because they believe you're easier to beat in a general election. What do you say to that assertion?
Well, I think it's silly. Obviously, in a state that has 800,000 more registered Democrats, where independents lean towards liberal policy. I think it is, silly for them to believe that, particularly since Trump's ratings are falling lower and lower and lower. The reality is they think that our policies, our progressive policies, are not sellable to the people of this state, and I think they're wrong. I think they're not only sellable to the people in the state, but sellable to people around the country. I just don't think that we have been selling working families, and we have been pulling our base out. And I'm focused completely on our base, on families, on working families here in New Jersey who are looking for opportunity to be in the middle class, to be a part of an inclusive economy, to pull boulders out of their way and obstacles out of their way so they can raise their families in a state that's not super expensive, where we give millions and billions of dollars to the wealthy in this state like we're doing in the country. They want that to change in New Jersey, and they want it to change in the country.
Mayor, you one of six running, so you've got a pretty aggressive primary. You've had this particular event now play out, and again is impacting, could have some potential impact on the race. I was listening to what your last answer regarding the other governors out there that are currently in office. What is the sense among those that are currently in office, yourself seeking that office, that this idea of a coalition, and I'm going to say less emphasis on the fact that you're blue state governors, but rather more on the fact that you are governors. You are governing in states in which there are Republicans, right? In which there are all types of Republicans. How do you cross-pollinate that message so that it's less partisan in an environment that your opposition wants it to be more partisan? They want to play up the fact that you are, quote, a progressive versus just being a guy who wants to be governor to serve the people in the face of threats, authoritarian threats to their liberties and their freedoms, as exampled by what happened at that ICE center.
Right. Well, number one, I am a progressive. I don't apologize for that. But the reality is cutting Medicaid affects everybody. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Cutting money for housing and public housing affects Republicans and Democrats. Attacking the Department of Education and taking money away from kids that are disabled, that are special needs, affects us all. Attacking Social Security, closing veterans' offices, making it difficult for veterans to have access to their benefits, right? To fire 6,000 federal employees. What they did to the FAA, 400 FAA officials removed, affecting people's flight and safety. This affects regular working families, regardless of what party you're in, where you live in this state. And that's just the reality of the matter. And folks are going to see that, and they are seeing that. That's why Republicans are having difficult times around the country at their meetings. That's why his ratings are dropping, because tariffs not only affect Democratic states, they also affect Republican states. This is a ridiculous position that these folks have. Their policies are wrong. Direction in the country is going wrong. And attacking folks in our communities and putting them against each other is backfiring on them and is not helping them, as a matter of fact.